My name is Eva Baños de Guisasola, and I'm Senior Advisor on the Global Agendas, SDG, and Climate Change at the Council of European Municipalities and Regions and PLATFORMA. We're also the European section of United Cities for Local Governments, UCLG, for those who know. So thanks very much for joining this webinar on the title on From Seville to 2030, Closing the Sustainable Development Goals Financing Gap. This is going to be the first discussion that we had in CEMR Platforma on financing SDGs. So this is for us very challenging, very important and very relevant, considering the time being. I'm just going to give you some indications on logistics, and I'm going to explain you how the webinar is going to run. And then I'll give you a few minutes to respond to 3 questions on your background, on the geographical scope where you're based, and your knowledge on SDGs financing, so we know who is around the screen. First, logistical aspects. We are recording this webinar. It will be shared with you next week. I'm going to also do a short report with the outcomes and the links that we'll be using in this discussion. As mentioned, I will be sharing 3 questions for you, so we also know who is online. A lot of people register also, from all continents, so this is very positive and also indicates the relevance of the current topic. We'll also be taking a group picture after the intervention of the keynote. And then we'll also be monitoring the chat where you can put your questions and answers, and my colleague Matilde online as well will be telling us if there are any questions for the speakers. So I welcome you all to this interesting session. The objective of this webinar is to tackle aspects on financing. We have, as CEMR Platform, been conducting surveys on SDGs implementation. We present results of these surveys, and we present a report every year before the high-level political forum in July, before the United Nations. And one of the questions that comes every year is the financial aspect. Members, they still need to understand how financing works, how financing is accessible, where are the bottlenecks, and what are the challenges for the subnational level. So this is why we're tackling this. Also because we have very few years left before the target year 2030 for the implementation of SDGs. And we are still lagging very much behind. So that's what we want to address this topic now. Also because in the discussions we have with the key actors, either at European level or international level, they want to hear about the perspective of the local authorities on the financial aspect. So this is a way also to help them with concrete cases, with concrete concerns on how we can close this gap between the subnational level and the other levels of governance. So the objective of this webinar will be tackling all these aspects. Then we'll be also be organizing follow-up sessions on this one early next year, and we'll be presenting the results of these discussions at the next HLPF. Also because the next HLPF will be tackling some SDGs which are under review, and SDG 11 is one of the key ones. So that's why we want to make the link between this SDG and the review and the financial aspect. So in terms of the structure of this webinar, we're going to have a first keynote from one of our colleagues from Latin America, Gabriella Costa-Ferreira. She's a regional representative of the Latin America Caribbean region of the Global Fund for Cities Development. So this is very good that we can have her here. Then she will be presenting us how to promote investment and financing solutions to enhance urban development. Then we will also have a presentation by our colleague Paloma Labbé from the UCLG. She's officer on local finances. She will be presenting us the WOFI initiative, which is the World Observatory on Subnational Government on Finance and Investment. Then we will have 2 presenters to discuss about what happened in Seville this year. A lot of things happened between April and July. And we're going to be hearing what was the outcomes of the 6th World Forum on Local Economic Development that will be presented by our colleague Xavier Mestres, the coordinator of FAMSI, and the Andalusian Fund for Municipalities for International Solidarity. And then we'll also be hearing from Íñigo Arbio, who is the deputy head of the secretary of the Local 230 Coalition in Bilbao. And he will be presenting us the outcomes of this conference that also happened in July, and how the local coalition has been contributed to shape this conference, and what happened between April and July. To mention that in April there was an outcome document, which is the Declaration of Seville. In July there was the Compromiso of Seville, the Engagement of Seville. So these are 2 key documents that also have implications for the subnational level. So we need to understand what are going to be the implications for the subnational level after these 2 big conferences, because One was the 6th World Conference, the other one was the 4th International Conference. So it's a series of conferences. So we need to understand what is our role for us here and what role we can play. And then we'll also be hearing from our bodies as the introduction speech. And then what are we going to do with all these outcomes? So it's just not an ad hoc session we're going to have now. This is, as I mentioned, the first time we start discussing about financial aspects linked to SDGs. We're going to present these results to the ambassador of the European Union delegation in New York, because we met him this summer and he invited us to be proactive and share with him the concerns from the subnational level in terms of the implementation of SDGs. We don't want to come back to July to New York and present the same results as we know now. So we need to also come out and propose solutions. And we know what the solutions are. We just need to know how feasible these solutions are. So this is another way of joining, the discussions at the international level with the people in New York. And we will also be launching another questionnaire this year, early next year, on behalf of CEMR and PLATFORMA on the implementation of SDGs. And one key chapter will be on financial aspects. So the results of the conversation today will also be reused to shape the questionnaire next year. And also we'll be organizing another webinar like this one, maybe in the spring, in any case before summer, to see what are the bottlenecks that are still there and how we can maybe continue our discussion. So without further ado, I will first, my colleague Xavier will be asking you 3 questions. They're easy questions. It's not an exam. I think that you will have the responses. So it was going to be about where are you based at the moment, then also how much you know about SDGs financing, and also what is your background, so we know who we are talking. So we'll just give a few seconds to respond, and you can do this on the screen. So we see that most are European. No, not all of us are European. We'll give a few more seconds, so almost all of you will have responded. Okay, so it's okay. This one? Okay. So 90% responded, so 60% are from the European Union, 20% from Asia, 5% from Africa, also from North and Central America and South America. So it's quite interesting. Then the second question. Sorry, there was also, yeah, sorry. There was also business, scientific community, and civil society. Okay. So the second one. So the second one is the professional background. So 65% are policymakers. Then we've got the next rate is scientific community, 80%, and then more or less even between city planners, business, civil society, and some from media, general public. Okay, that's very good. And then in terms of your knowledge on financing, you say you have 40%, which is quite high, medium knowledge, and then basic 33 and advanced 22. So that also gives us an indication who is on the screen. So that's very good. Sorry, stop sharing. Okay. So thank you very much for answering this, and then we will keep the results also to be shared. Do we have them? Okay. Okay. So now, without further ado, then I will go straight to Boris, and he will just give us some introductory words. So Boris, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a quick test. I hope you can hear me. All good. I see nodding, so that's a positive sign for online meetings. People nod, that means they can hear you. So the first hurdle is passed. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and partners, welcome to this webinar today. It's one in a series of CEMR PLATFORMA, which we can loosely call the Global Agendas Academy series, because we are trying to speak about global agendas. We had a very interesting webinar with lots of participation on climate resilience earlier this year, the Town Hall COP on climate, very, very recently, and now SDG financing. So we really see how different global agendas on resilience, on SDGs, on sustainable development, on climate are coming together. And in the end, it all comes to the question of financing. So welcome, and it's a privilege to open this conversation on a topic that sits at the very heart of global development. So from Seville to 2030, closing the Sustainable Development Goals financing gap. Especially as we have a global audience today, I hope this will be a very fruitful meeting. As we gather here today, we really stand at a critical juncture. A decade ago, the world endorsed the 2030 Agenda, a bold and universal commitment to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all. Yet, as we see 10 years later, the gap between our aspirations and the resources has grown wider. The SDG financing gap is now measured not only in dollars, but in missed opportunities in development, in unrealized potential for many people in this planet, and communities still waiting for progress to reach them. This is why today's discussion is really very important. The financing challenge ahead of us is substantial, but it's not insurmountable. What it requires is clarity, coordination, and above all, I would say collective ambition. You probably all know that Seville, a city in Spain, hosted two key events this year, the 6th World Forum on Local Economic Development in April, and the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in July. To offer a very powerful metaphor, the city of Seville, that for centuries served as a bridge between continents, a place where trade, culture, and innovation converged, it reminds us that progress is really born from connection across sectors, across borders, and across ideas. So looking into 2030 ahead, we must embrace the same spirit of openness and collaboration. We will speak today about closing the SDG financing gap, and we see the necessity to act on three different fronts. First of all, rethink fundamentally how development is financed. Public resources will always be essential, but will always remain scarce. The public budgets cannot carry the burden alone, specifically budgets of local regional governments that are chronically underfinanced. And this is a quote from the final document of the Sevilla financing document. So we need new types of partnerships with the private sector, new incentives to mobilize long-term investment. We need stronger multilateral cooperation, and financing sustainable development is not a niche activity. It must be a part of how our economies grow socially on the ground in collaboration among all. Secondly, I would say innovation must become our default approach. We spoke in Sevilla about innovative financial instruments such as blended finance, green and blue bonds, guarantees, impact-linked financing. So these have a potential to unlock financing in the future. We can still innovate and use digital tools to increase efficiency, transparency, and especially trust of the public in these processes. If scaled effectively, these solutions can turn the financing gap into a financing opportunity. And last but not least, resources must reach those who need them most. Financing is not only about mobilizing capital, it's about aligning with real impact on the ground. That was also the discussion yesterday we had with the Commissioner for International Partnerships in the Global Gateway Advisory Platform, speaking about how Global Gateway investments must reach local communities, how it's not only about private investment and return on investment for the private investor, but also on long-lasting and sustainable impact on the ground. It means supporting also countries that face debt stress, strengthening local institutions, local governments, civil society organizations, investing in people and communities who drive the change on the ground. So today's webinar is much more than about diagnosing the challenge. We know what the challenge is. We must shape a path forward. We must make choices between now and 2030 to determine whether we deliver on the promise that the SDGs represent. A fair, safer, a more sustainable world, not leaving anyone behind. So thank you very much for the discussion. I'm very much looking forward for the discussions. Thank you for the speakers in advance for their contribution. And please, let's go ahead with the interesting content that we have from our contributors. Welcome.
Okay, many thanks, Boris. 5 minutes, wow, perfect timing. Okay, thank you very much for your inspiring words, Boris. And now I'm happy to welcome Gabriella online. And she's representing the Global Fund for Cities Development, and she will be presenting us how to promote investment and financing solutions to enhance urban development. So, Gabriella, you have the floor. And please don't hesitate, the other colleagues, to post the questions on the chat. We'll be addressing them a bit later. Thank you very much. Questions or comments as well. Thank you very much. So, Gabriella, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Do you hear me well? Because it's a little echo here. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And it's an honor to represent our Executive Director, Mr. Carlos de Freitas, who could not be here today. It's an honor to speak also just after COP in Belém, just some days, weeks after COP, and some months after the 4th International Conference on Finance for Development, FFT4 in Seville. And the question that I came here to answer, why does finance still not reach the local level, was pretty much market on these two moments. And these two moments told us the same truth, that we are running out of time and we are running out of excuses to reach the Paris Agreement. Because the Paris Agreement depends on cities, as we know, 70% to 80% of mitigation and adaptation measures are implemented locally, as recognized by both COP final document and FFT4 also recognize the role of subnational governments, but less than 11% of climate finance reach cities and emerging markets, and only 1% reach less development country cities. So the difference between implementation and the real access of finance is very, very misleading. And this mismatch is not a technical accident as we perceive, it's political and it's structural. So we see 5 problems related to the question of why we are not reaching the local ground with climate finance. The first question is the final architecture is not designed for the actual needs that we need. It was designed for a different world. As the Seville commitment acknowledged on multiple pages in the final paper, the financial system is not inclusive, not representative, and not effective enough, and must be urgently reformed to respond to the development and climate challenge that we need. The system still channels most climate resources through sovereign pathways, even though cities carry the burden of implementation. So the system is national driven, while the implementation is subnational leaded. The second question is, we have a lot of fragmentation and duplication of the work. It is across European Union, Latin American, African, and Asian. We see the same pattern. Ministries, agencies, funds, banks, donors, all working with their own roles, their own priorities, and their own pipelines. So what we call as FMDV and as subnational representatives is explicit, was in FFT4 and is still in COP, was the same. Actors in national and subnational level work in silos and often repeat and do the same programs. They don't coordinate and start duplicating efforts. It's a very, very rich question, and it's not only in the south, but also in the north. The third question is the capacity and preparation gap. Here, I know you know very well this question. Project preparation costs between 10 and 13% of total project value. For a 10 million project, for example, that means 1 to 1.3 million just for studies. But most cities, especially in the global south and mainly in Europe also, simply cannot front load this part of the project preparation. And going to the fourth is the scale and bankability barriers. Cities mostly manage service, not commercial assets. So projects are small, scattered, and sometimes revenue poor. And without disaggregation, pooling, and guarantees, these projects will never reach the investment commitment. And it's a point that we emphasized a lot in the process of FFD, and also we brought to COP and to the roadmap Baku to Belém in a lot of technical notes. We cannot still working project by project. We have to get scale, and we have to pass the bankability barriers that we still facing in the subnational level. And the third, the fifth problem is the question of still slow and uneven decentralization. So, and yet, despite 30 years of recognition, most countries have not fully enabled local governments as climate actors. So, from Seville to COP, COP called a lot of global mutirão, work of multiple actors, reminding parties that implementation must be accelerated in solidarity and multi-level cooperation, but the enabling condition remains sufficient as the decentralization is still very, very slowly in many of the countries. So recognizing these problems, we can, it's not always lost. We can do a lot, and actually we are doing already. And the answer is not only technical, but it's also political, because we know what works, and now is the moment to scale it politically. So first, one very important answer and comes to this decentralization that is slowly, is that we have to make multi-level governance a pillar of climate implementation. So it was claimed in COP28 with the declaration of Change Coalition, the climate high ambition multi-level partnerships. Also, we call it from LGMA constituency in COP30 also, but also in FFD, we still coming to the convergence on national plans must be co-designed and co-delivered with local governments. This means integrating cities into national determined contributions, the NDCs 3.0, aligning national and local climate budgets, and giving cities formal roles in national platforms and dialogues. Without this multi-level governance, we cannot, without planifying with cities, we cannot deliver the national ambitions that we need to achieve the 2030 agenda. And the second, we have to localize climate finance. We call in Seville and in Belém, we call it for 30% by 2030. We have to have a minimum target of 30% of climate finance reaching local and regional governments. This is not radical. It is proportional to cities' responsibilities, actually. They manage 70 to 8% of the delivery. So 30% is not even coming to the all that they need to deliver, but it's going to in the way that we need. In the third solution, we have to build national systems that channel finance through the territories. The Baku to Belém roadmap is clear. Local delivery must become a building feature of country platforms and public development banks. What it means? Urban and territorial windows inside of country platforms. We talk in the final system, we talk now a lot about a country platform, which is this national policies and platforms giving national priorities for ecological transitions. What we say that these national programs has to be planified with urban and territorial windows to help all the climate finance that is coming to the country to reach the local level, to be localized. We need to include also national and subnational development banks on the system, and they have to be used to localize finance. We have to have more and more local currency credit lines, portfolio guarantees, and simplified rules under Ministry of Finance oversight. This is a very important question because we see Ministry of Finance, they manage the climate funds that comes to the countries, and not in all the cases they are very understanding the importance of creating these windows that localize climate finance. So this is a very, very important question that we need to unlock. Finally, we have to make project preparation a public good. The Seville Commitment, paragraph 26, recognizes that public resources must be at the heart of development finance. And this includes the grants that enable cities to prepare projects. This is why the international community must support local project preparation ecosystems that help us not to giving the grants for the ones that already have it, but to addressing it to the cities that are more vulnerable. We have also to support the creation of FinHubs. This is small national financing engineering teams that help cities to in a way go out of the system that always come with external consultancies that help in a project but then go out and don't help to build local financing engineering knowledge. We have to help cities to have their own financing engineering knowledge. And finally, we have to decentralize cooperation networks to reduce costs. We have a lot of this problem of helping not a lot of knowledge coming from the north to the south, but the costs are very high. So we have to understand how we build this decentralized cooperation that also helps to reduce the costs from south to south, from north to north. And finally, we have to open subnational access to climate funds. COP's loss and damage deliberations, the new global goals on adaptation indicators and the adaptation funds discussions all create pathways to direct and delegate subnational access. Small grant windows from frontline communities, because we have always this question of scale. We have to build small grant windows and the possibilities for small and medium cities and regions, and the involvement of national and subnational development banks as accredited intermediaries once again. And finally, now that we are speaking to European cities, I think it's a very important question, is the question of use this decentralized cooperation as a multiplier. In Europe, decentralized cooperation is a political asset, and peer-to-peer support gives credibility, reduces transactions costs, and accelerates institutional learning. This is the kind of solidarity that we call in the Finance for Development in FFT4, and in the same COP's Global Mutirão calls for across all levels. We have a lot of good examples of decentralized cooperation between European cities and Global South, that delivered a lot on adaptation and mitigation, and we know this is a very important way of accelerating the what we have to deliver in 5 years from now. So to finalize, I don't know if I have a lot of time still.
You need how much longer? 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes. Okay. So I spoke a lot about the problem, how we can bring solutions. FMDV was created in this context to understand climate finance and to represent local and regional governments, and also to invest in innovative mechanisms that can help to localize all this climate finance. So we are working in 3 different fronts. The first one, as I was saying, how we tackle this problem of going project by project, and we come to a systematic change, and that's why we are working on country platforms for localizing finance with the support of European Union and the French Agency for Ecological Transition. And in these platforms, what we do, we bring ministries, we help the Ministry of Finance to go out of their bubble and to speak with the Ministry of Environment and Territorial Development to create territorial pipelines and to simplify rules for guarantees and subnational access to climate finance. So this is a very important work that we are doing. We just launched in COP30 the country platform for localizing finance of Cameroon and Madagascar. And in COP also we had 13 countries launching their country platforms. And now we are seeing how we can help these countries to have mechanisms to localize finance also, not only in Africa, but in South America and also in Asia. And another very important pillar, and this is example of Europe that we bring a lot to the South, is how we work with development banks. As Boris was saying, public finance is not enough, but it's very, very important because they understand local climate pipelines, so they perceive risk in a different way of multilateral public banks. They can aggregate small projects and they can lend in local currency. And finally, they can structure pooled and off-balance sheet instruments. So they are very, very important. In Europe, we call them territorial banks. Here in Latin America, we call them national and subnational development banks. And they play this role of coming in very risky and mostly in question of adaptation projects to open the way for private capital to come after. So we work a lot with these banks. We have Global Alliance of Subnational Development Banks that is part of the Seville Platform for Action and is part of the Grand Area of Solution of COP30. And we are trying to understand how we use these engines to localize finance. So we publish a study showing the solutions that these banks are already delivering to help not only cities and regions, but also local actors, so small and medium enterprises and also community-led projects, how they are helping them to access finance. I will put the link in the chat of this study. It shows banks in South America and Africa, and these solutions can be replicated in another territory. So it's one way that we are trying to work to help to scale climate finance in the local level. And finally, is how we build local capacity and credibility. And this is passed a lot on the role of decentralization to help to build together concept notes, matchmaking and readiness facilities, what one city did and how it can help in the experience with other cities. All the question of national adaptation plans and local level adaptation plans and how it can be transferred from city to city, and all the question of data that we need a lot, MRV and pipeline structuring, and the decentralization plays a very important role here. I know I'm running out of time, but maybe to the final message that I wanted to bring here is that we are in a decisive window to the Paris Agenda. Again, 2030 is tomorrow, and we will not get there without a financial system with this actual financial system that deliver 1% to cities that carry out 80% of the workload. And we will not get there with fragmented programs or the short-term thinking that still going project by project, but we can get there with political courage, with solidarity that is brought by decentralized cooperation, and with a new pact between national, international, and local governments. And on that, European cities that I see is the majority part of the audience here, plays and have a historic role to play in shaping this pact, to help also the global south to pass the gap that now is global, is a problem of all of us. Thank you very much, and sorry for running out of time.
Thank you very much, Gabriella. No, is that we would need a whole day to let you speak, because there's so much going on and it's so fascinating and so challenging. But I think that some of the keywords that you said, the centralized cooperation is key, and this is what Platforma does as well. So thank you very much for this. I will now give the floor to my colleague Matilde, who's online. She's gonna recap some of the comments that have been put in the chat. So Matilde, can you tell us what has been saying? Thank you.
Yes. You hear me?
Yes.
1 second, we have.
Now?
Okay, perfect. So we have a few comments. First of all, Ranjan gave us a perspective from India. He said many developing countries face high borrowing costs and significant debt for servicing expenses that divert funds from essential services like health and education. Financial inclusion can help improve health and well-being, SDG 3, making it easier for people to manage medical expenses and rebound from an health crisis. In countries like India, people are facing such problem in rural areas. Inequality is the major factor. Wealth inequality means capital. It does not reach the places and people that need it most. It's very important to maintain coordination between government and citizens to implement such global agendas and economic policies. Challenges finance for people and the planet is critical. To achieve the 2030 SDGs, over $4 trillion are needed to close the global financing gap. The finance needed is only 1% of the global wealth. However, it is not directed to the most needed areas of sustainable development. And finally, climate change, climate-related disasters, and the need for climate action require significant investments. Thank you very much for the comments. And we also have comment from Joachim saying, Gabriella rightfully mentions the key obstacle to be overcome, to institutionalize multi-level dialogue on SDGs financing and to focus lobbying efforts to get from recognition to practical application. Once this can be achieved, the door is open for innovative approaches to involve the local level for delivery, not only of services, but to access financing via dedicated local SDGs funds and project preparation mechanisms. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Matilde, for reading them aloud, and also to Joaquim and our colleague from India for raising the consent. Thank you very much, and also to Gabriella. Now, before we move on to Paloma's presentation, I'm going to take a quick smiling picture. So you need to show us your best smile. That will be also in the report. So I'll say 1, 2, 3 and smile, okay? Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. And we have how many pages we have there? Okay, is it good, Ahmed? Okay, this one, okay. So thank you very much for your big smiles. And now I'll give the floor to Paloma, so she can present us the work that WOFI is doing and also the Cities Countdown initiative. So Paloma, you have the floor, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva. And hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting UCLG to this important webinar, which is not the first of this type of webinar and series of clusters and sessions, but the first one focusing on SDG financing. So it's an honor to be part of this discussion. I am Paloma Labbé, and I work as a policy officer focused on the local finance topic at the UCLG World Secretariat based in Barcelona. So in this presentation, I will touch on two main topics. I will make a first presentation on the World Observatory on Subnational Government Finance and Investment, and then do a brief overview of the Cities Countdown 2030 initiative that is led by a colleague at the UCLG World Secretariat who could not attend the session today. I wanted to go over the basic objectives of this initiative I'm presenting to you today, because these are could seem basic and have been mentioned by Gabriella, by Boris, and Boris's introduction as well. But really, this initiative, it has this main objective of providing the data and the information that we don't have. We want to be able to provide improve the access and facilitate the access of SDG financing to local and regional governments. But all of this lobbying and practical and technical solutions that we want to bring to local governments mainly depends on being able to argument and understand the panorama and the situation, the actual situation of local finances across the world. So in 2015, the OECD and UCLG joined forces with some other partners that I will go into later to create this initiative that we abbreviate and call WOFI as a short title, to bring forth and gather knowledge on multi-level governance, territorial organization, decentralization frameworks, and subnational government finance. So here we have a set of specific objectives. So we not only want to bring general knowledge, but most specifically, we want to bridge the data gap on public finance, subnational public finance. So there is a set of indicators and data that is accessible through this observatory. The reason we do this is also to support policy making, not only at local government, but at all levels of government, for improvement and development of decentralization frameworks, but also multi-level governance organization in each country. We have been able to support capacity making and capacity building for government officials, but also other practitioners with this tool, and bringing a more detailed and fine understanding of local government finance. We are convinced that this observatory helps also promote dialogue and mutual understanding through sessions such as this one today. And finally, we hope for this observatory to last, to be sustainable, and to help monitor in the long term the contribution of local and regional governments to different global agendas and the sustainable development goals. So just to give you an overview of the timeline and why this year we say with the WOFI that we are celebrating the 10-year anniversary. In 2015, UCLG and OECD gathered to prepare and launch the pilot edition, the first edition. At that time, we were supported by the French Development Agency. So we started we started out smaller, and we have been growing and consolidating mainly since then. We are happy to count today with 3 full editions. So the second one was published in 2019, the third one in 2022. And this year, we have celebrated the 10th year since the creation of this observatory. I will go on telling you about the ongoing preparations of the 4th edition that we hope that will come to life at the end of 2026, and with updated data, but also more in-depth information and new sections and topics that we want to tackle. I also want to make a mention of how this observatory works, because it is a very ambitious project that aims to gather this data across countries around the world. So we count on many partners and stakeholders that are involved and that help us contact with experts, gather data, and orient us. It is not only led by UCLG and OECD, but there are a number of actors involved in the evolution and the sustainability of the WOFI. So we have a governing body that is called the Steering Committee, and that meets once every year or every 2 years. As you can see on the screen on the timeline, the dates have been aligned, and this body helps define the content and substantive orientation of each edition of the WOFI. It helps maintain coherence between the policy needs that we see on the ground, that we hear from practitioners, but also consider the global urgent thematics to be touched upon, the evolutions and the academic debates of the moment, to make sure that everyone is aligned and that the WOFI evolves towards the correct place to be the most useful and efficient possible. This tool that can really help policy making and be useful for everyone, and not only stay on a shelf, stay on the website. We want to make it useful. We have developed this year also the scientific committee. The steering committee is a large body where all stakeholders come to discuss general, strategic, and substantive orientations. We have the scientific committee composed of a number of academics and experts on this specific topic. And this committee is dedicated to consolidating and providing advice on the methodological aspect of the World Observatory. We have been counting with the support from more and more partners over the year. As you can see, the number of logos growing and increasing on the slide. And for this 4th edition, we have new partners that are bringing their support as of this year. And even from next year onwards, that include the Latin American Development Bank and the European Commission also, and some other partners that will be included in this next edition. To give you an overview of what the WOFI actually offers, what it materializes in. We have a website, the sngwofi.org website, that you can see on the screen here, and there you can access 3 main products: the database with over 80 fiscal indicators, 135 country profiles. in various languages, English, French, and Spanish, and the general synthesis. In this general synthesis, we try to summarize the information gathered in each of the country profiles, and we get data on a global at a global level on average that helps us get numbers such as the fact that in 2020, subnational governments accounted for 20% of public spending on average at the global level, or the fact that local and regional governments are responsible for 40% of public investment on average at a global level. So this helps us understand, in addition to other data that was provided by Gabriella, how important and critical local and governments are in specific sectors sometimes to implement the SDGs. As we can see here, we've been presenting the WOFI in diverse seminars and conferences throughout the past few years to make this data known, to show what it brings to the table. And in particular, this year we were also present at the Seville Financing for Development Conference, where we managed to ensure a place for the WOFI in the Seville Platform for Action. So it is part of the over 130 initiatives that will concretely and help implement the Seville commitment. So we are proud of the WOFI being part of this long-term monitoring process to serve especially for development actors to be able to monitor and follow up the localization of financing. We hope also, as was mentioned in the chat and in the discussion, that the WOFI can be a platform to create this multi-level and intergovernmental discussion space on SDG financing based on this evidence. And this, I will without going into detail, I wanted to show you that this is what we've done so far, and we are actually working hard to prepare the next edition. We have been updating the methodology in the past year, and these are the step-by-step work that we will be taking forth to next year until the next edition is launched at the end of 2026. So we are working with a big team of over 40 country and regional experts who are in charge of drafting each of the country profiles. So we can go more in depth later on, but so you can have an idea that this is a group effort. Yeah.
And then, Paloma, we'll need to move on quickly because then there are two more speakers. But then on the Cities Countdown project, maybe if you can also tell us a couple of words on what that means so the colleagues know it. There's also information in the background agenda that you have received. But if you can tell us, like, what does it mean in practice?
That sounds perfect, Eva, yes. So for any more information, please follow the website or write to my colleague Kader and myself. And precisely on the Cities Countdown, so I just wanted to mention on behalf of the colleagues leading this, that it is an initiative led jointly by UCLG and the United Nations to accelerate SDG localization by showing how local governments are already working on and managing to mobilize investment on 6 different transitions: food, energy, digital, education, jobs, and climate. So more specifically, the particularity of the Cities Countdown is that it has a mission-oriented methodology and public purpose innovation. So based on 3 pillars, which are to measure investment, resources, beneficiaries, to observe the governance frameworks and the partnerships that are being created, and then to showcase, to go from impact and results to narrative and political visibility. This framework and this initiative will be able to demonstrate that cities bring impact, but are also a place of market readiness and can help attract private investment and blended finance for in order to ultimately close the local SDG financing gap. So just to show you the list of the cities that are working on this with us so far: Konya on mobility, Kisumu on a project on local food systems, Montevideo on social inclusion, and Barcelona on carbon neutrality. So this way, we hope that we can show how cities are helping reach the 2030 agenda on the fastest way possible. And so here are the contacts of the colleagues working on this project. And finally, to just close, I wanted to mention the UCLG World Congress that will be taking place next year in June, and where all of these projects will have their moment of consolidation, of gathering, and we will be discussing local finances there as well. So I hope to cross paths with you there. Thank you.
Okay, many thanks, Paloma. It's very exciting, and I've also taken a look at the report on the cities come down. It's very clear, and also I encourage colleagues to take a look at that because the examples can be replicated and it's very well presented. So congratulations for that, and also on Wolfie. We don't see any comments on the chat, so I will then move to the next speaker. So then we're going to hear from Xavier Mestres, and he's the coordinator of the...
No, Eva, do we have time for a question or just an acceleration on something
then
later on?
Ahead. Yeah, go.
No. I'm just wondering. The annual meetings in New York, the HLPF, right? After what Paloma just said about WOFI, SNG, WOFI, they work together with the OECD and since 2016, and knowing that the OECD within this time frame, they included as one of their key principles a multi-level governance. I mean, this hasn't been there before, and OECD since then has been including it and advocating for it. The question is, at the HLPF in New York, do you have there any synergies? You work together with the OECD and to bring this forward, or it's just written and there it stays? I mean, as far as OECD is concerned.
Thank you, Joachim. Just in case this is a question for me, I think there are synergies, and throughout the year, there are expert group meetings of the OECD that try to make multi-level governance a reality where we are involved. So throughout the year, there are moments where we make this a reality and are in touch with the OECD. But at HLPF specifically, this depends on the year, and I would have to see with my colleagues who are part of working towards HLPF. So I can definitely check and get back to you. But thanks for asking.
Just curious. Thanks, Paloma.
Okay, thanks to both of you. And then we'll follow that up, Joaquin, so you already have an answer. You can have an answer on this, okay, a concrete one. So now I'm going to give the floor to Xavier Mestres. He's the coordinator of the World Forum for Local Development, and he was from the Andalusian Municipalities and International Solidarity, FAMSI. And Xavier, you have the floor. If you can maybe do like in 13 minutes. Okay. So we also have...
I will try. Yeah, okay. No, thank you, Evan. No, thank you, Evan. Thank you for this invitation to this webinar, and also to be able to share, who we are and what we do, no? So if you don't mind, to start my intervention, I would like to give you a bit of context on what the World Forum on Local Economic Development is. And also to finalize, I would like to talk about the impact of the forum in the FMDV conference and beyond. So the World Forum on Local Economic Development is a global stakeholders platform for dialogue, cooperation, and knowledge exchange among local and regional governments, international organizations, private sector, academia, and civil society, among other actors, which its main purpose is to share experiences and strategies to promote economic development from the local perspective. So the forum is governed by an executive committee that includes the Andalusian Fund of Municipalities for International Solidarity, which also holds the secretariat, the global secretariat. Also UNDP, the International Labour Organization, UCLG, the Organization of United Regions, and the Global Fund for Cities Development. And we also have an extended committee that includes the local 2030 Coalition, the Global Alliance for Care, GRIPES, the Global Social Economy Forum, the OECD Forum of Local Government, and the Commonwealth Local Government Forum that help us to strengthen the diversity of topics and also to enhance its capacity to link local economic development with global agenda. So basically, the forum aims to promote territorial development through public policies that strengthen local and regional governments, to exchange good practices related to employment, innovation, sustainability, social economy, and inclusion, among others, to connect stakeholders from different countries to foster partnerships and international cooperation, and also to reflect on the role of territories in addressing global challenges. Since 2011, the forum has been held in several countries, such as Spain, Brazil, Italy, and Cape Verde, and going back to Spain this April 2025 to reinforce the commitment to strengthening the role of territories as key actors in sustainable development. So this 6th edition of the forum was built upon the progress made in previous editions to consolidate the forum as a global reference platform for shaping innovative approaches to local economic development, to highlight emerging trends such as green and circular economy model, digital inclusion, and resilient urban and rural strategies, to promote multi-level governance, encouraging coordination between national, regional, and local institutions for more effective policy implementation, to showcase successful territorial experiences, also enabling participants to learn from practical experiences, examples, and replicable solutions adapted to different contexts, and also to strengthen South-South and triangular cooperation, prioritizing knowledge exchange between developing regions facing similar challenges. So this last edition, held in April 2025, was very important because at the time when we were already working towards the forum, it appeared the FMDV conference to be held just 3 months after the forum, and on top of that, in the same city. So when we called the forum, we knew that Spain was going to host the FMDV, but we didn't know that it will be in the same city of the forum. So for us, it was a unique opportunity to increase the relevance of the local economic development, as well as to start working in the legacy of the forum. No? So for us, the forum in Seville was a success. We had more than 2,000 participants from 70 countries, and we worked in a consolidated program to be able to reflect the diversity of priorities that shape local economic development around the world and trying to support the localization of the SDGs. No? So the 3 main topics of the program were the triple transition, decent work, and social justice, territorial and global coalitions for financing sustainable local economic development, and local economies that care. That with those 3 main topics, we were aiming to build a strong narrative that would position territorial development as an essential pillar of global financing and policy debate. No? So our objective was not only to discuss those issues within the forum, but also to ensure that the perspective and experiences of local actors would influence the FMDV conference. So in this sense, the final declaration of the 6th forum, for example, highlighted the need to place territories at the center of global ecological, digital, and social transitions, recognizing that local actors are essential for addressing growing inequalities, climate challenges, and global transformations. So the declaration also calls for strengthening decentralized financing systems by giving local governments with more fiscal autonomy and integrating territorial financing mechanisms. So there are more recommendations, but with the final declaration, we had the opportunity to share with the host all those recommendations that could contribute to the FMDV outcome document and to be able to work after the forum on those topics. No? So to do so, we work in 2 main priorities. Of course, working with our executive committee members But one was to work together with Spain as the host of the forum and host of the FFD4 to allow us to recognize the forum as an important mobilization step towards the FFD4, as well as to increase the relevance of the local economic development topic. No? And also the second was to include the topic of financing territorial development as one of the top priorities of the forum. As I said before, we included that topic as one of the main areas of work, and we had high-level and policy dialogues, as well as special panels to extract some key challenges that territories are facing. So by doing this, we share those recommendations of the forum with the host to contribute in the final declaration of the FFD4. This, of course, didn't happen because the forum was too close to the FFD4, and also because the FFD4 had its own multilateral process, but it served us to continue working in our main purpose. No? So what we achieved in the FFD4 at the end was that the forum was recognized as one of the key initiatives of the Seville Platform for Action, endorsed by the government of Spain, to be able to implement in the coming years some actions to contribute in its document, no? The Seville commitment. And we are now in this phase. So after 6 months of the FFD4, we are implementing a digital platform to put together local economic development initiatives to learn from each other, exchange methodologies, and identify opportunities for cooperation that can strengthen territorial development. No? So this platform aims to serve as a repository of good practices, innovative tools, and policy experiences, helping local and regional actors translate global commitments into local action. And we are also start planning the next edition of the forum with the financing territorial development as one of the main topics again in the main program. No? So the next forum is going to happen in 2027. We believe in a moment of a new construction of the 2030 agenda and an opportunity to strengthen the relevance of the local. And also in the meantime, we're also putting in place national local economic development forums to be able to promote public policies on local economic development. No? In the way that Gabriella said at the beginning, no? To try to scale up local economic development at political level. No? So you are invited to organize one and to contact us for guiding you in this process if necessary. So for us, the impact of the forum doesn't end with each edition. That's why the forum is more, for us, is more than an event. It's a process. It's a platform that wants to influence global debate, strengthen the role of territories, and reinforce the idea that sustainable development must be built from the local. It also means that we will continue working on the localization of the SDGs and the implementation of the new urban agenda that, by the way, next year in 2026 will be its 10th anniversary, and also strengthening the capacity of territories to translate global commitments into transformative local policies. No? So I think Eva, I will stop here. No? I will give the floor to Íñigo, and I am open to your feedback. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Javier. Yes, I'm going to give the floor to Íñigo because as both the work forum and the fourth conference are very linked, then we can maybe raise some questions after the full presentation of both of you. So thanks very much, Javier. And then Íñigo, you have the floor as well. If you can also do for 10 minutes or 12, so we can have some.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so it's okay. You hear me, right? Yes. Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting Local 2030 Coalition to join this. It's a pleasure. And for those who are not familiar, the Local 2030, and even though I see lots of familiar faces, partners, colleagues, people we very often collaborate with here, and it's the Local 2030 Coalition is the UN system-wide platform for localization. It was created to basically act on the full policy cycle by matching the local needs, priorities, and existing capacities with the global agendas. Make sure that we, by committing to this full policy cycle, we influence and create an advocacy that really delivers at the local level, right? So the main element, and this has to do with today's intervention, the main element we do currently in terms of engagement is the Road 2 processes, right? The Road 2 processes are strategies of engaging basically to match the UN recommendations, the UN system-wide recommendations, with the existing solutions on the ground, right? Territorial solutions, right? And putting this together and bringing it to global fora, not just to create advocacy, which could be, generally speaking, interesting, but also to influence on the outcomes of those global fora. And that's very important, right? So for us, this, let's say that in the Road to Seville, which was the first one of the Road 2 processes, we had Road to Seville, Road to Doha, Road to Belém, and we are working on the Road to Baku on the World Bank Forum, right? Already on that. This first process mobilized of more than 1,000 local development stakeholders across more than 20 countries. And it convened the voices of national governments, local and regional governments, civil society, private sector, academia, and of course the UN entities, right? And that's the constituencies we work for, right? So the idea, the first step of this global mobilization across 20 countries was precisely inspired by the UN system co-created working group 2 policy brief called Local Finances Development Finance, right? That's already a full declaration, a full starting point, right? The insights of all these consultations based on these UN recommendations were compiled in the Road to Seville report, which is available online. And very frankly, we think it made a significant impact at FFD4 by highlighting the transformative potential of localizing development finance, right? We wanted to show that there are existing solutions that are already transforming. It's not an aspiration, it should be an inspiration of the existing capacities and the existing elements, right? So how we influence FFD4, and when I say we, it's not obviously the secretariat of the coalition, is the whole coalition, multi-stakeholder, let's say, constituencies, which is a large number of people and institutions around the world, right? Well, basically, I think this connects with the unique role of the Local 2030 coalition, which is a UN platform that is bridging the national governments with the local and regional ones, with the UN entities, again, civil society, academia, and private sector, right? By combining this very broad constituency and channeling their perspectives into more coherent set of recommendations with a multi-stakeholder, multi-level approach, right? The coalition has been ensuring that localization of finance was consistently, let's say, visible throughout the preparatory process. And that was important before FFD4 happened, right? And help secure recognition with FFD4 preparations that local development finance was essential for achieving the SDGs, right? And this looks like a minor thing, but it's, as you all know, it was not a niche issue, but it's a core pillar of global financial agenda for us. So, and the Seville Declaration adopted precisely goes into this, right? Goes into, as you know, central role of domestic revenue mobilization, the reform, of course, of international financial architecture to incorporate localization of finance for development and development of finance, as I see here, Xavier, in the screen, right? Mobilization of public and private partnerships for finance, and many other elements, right? The declaration incorporated the support, expressly the support for local governments, and launched the Seville Platform of Action, which is my last point, right? A Seville Platform of Action for us is a key outcome of the mobilization, right? And it's essentially, it's already Xavier mentioned that was submitted by Spain together with UN Habitat as the permanent culture of the Local 2030 Coalition and the OECD, right? And the idea of this Seville Platform of Action is to turn these commitments into real action, with concrete steps and action, right? Which is, I think, something we all should focus on, right? Providing knowledge, tools to create enabling environments, right? In this, we are mobilizing the Bilbao Blueprint, right? 4 steps into creating solid territorial transformation projects with a systemic transformation approach, strengthening the local capacities and building partnerships, right? Scaling up innovative local solutions, right? And promoting transparency, right? The 10 actions are very large to be shared here. Indeed, we would like to invite you to connect to the launch of this SPA on December 16th, right? It's going to be online. And but basically, we're trying to have concrete actions to ensure visibility, so that FFT4 doesn't get isolated, but it's in connection with the other road twos, right? It's in connection with Doha, it's in connection with Belén, it's in connection with Wolf, and it's in connection with high-level political forum in a way that it makes sense, and we don't work isolatedly like niche for every one of the topics. We need to make sure that localization is cross-cutting our full year agenda, right? And we're on that, deploying innovative tools like the Bilbao Blueprint, the localization market 2.0 that is jointly developed with AI solutions with the Joint SDG Fund, of course, the integrated local financing frameworks to align financial flows with SDG priorities, and somehow create a community, a global community of practice, right, for decentralized cooperation also to channel and reinforce the commitments, right? So let me finish in 10 seconds, Eva. Sorry for taking more than 10 minutes, but
you can have 1 minute.
I still have a minute. Great, yeah.
You have 2 minutes, in fact.
Oh, incredible! It's never happened before to me.
15 seconds. 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Okay. So the idea of all this is the starting point is to recognize, right, that we need collective actions, very concrete steps that the SPA is presenting to deal with inadequate financing, as it remains one of the primary bottlenecks holding back the 2030 agenda. And when we refer to inadequate financing, we refer to inadequate financing for local stakeholders, right, at the local level. We hope that this Road to Seville, the working group policy brief, the SPA now, right, with this we can contribute to have a more clear path forward, right? So basically having in mind 3 elements: that finance must be localized, the local institutions must be empowered, because if we channel finance but local institutions are not empowered, this is not useful, and that all these 2 elements have no sense if development finance is not responding to territorial priorities and realities, right? If it is not co-created at the territorial level, which is where the social contract and it's created, right, and defended, particularly these times. Hope that this is the first discussion, even though with many of you it's not the first one. Boris and others, and Xavier and others, we've been sharing previous dialogues, and so I hope that we can rejoin in many others, right? But allow me to end with a very concrete recommendation of the policy brief, right, that we brought to this Road to Seville engagement strategy, which says literally, local action is global action, and development finance is only effective when it reaches and empowers local and regional governments, right? This is a pillar of what we do in the coalition. So thank you very much, and look forward to discussion and continuing this work together. Thank you.
Many thanks, Íñigo. Very clear, extremely clear. So I'm gonna give the floor to Matilde, because we've seen some questions in the chat and some comments. So Matilde, can you tell us? Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we have another question from Joachim. Since the Seville Forum served as a critical platform for addressing the financing challenges facing territories worldwide with the involvement of the Spanish government, was the outcome shared with the EU member state? If affirmative, any feedback? I think the question is for Inigo.
Great, sure. Yes, that in two ways. We're very closely collaborating with EU institutions, together with some of the people here. Particularly, we want to introduce this in the EU-UN dialogues that are happening every year. And this is very important because this together, it's an addition to what we did in 2025, particularly localizing the Global Gateway, and also bringing not only the Committee of Regions, which is kind of the natural space, but for local regional governments, but also the Commission, the Parliament, right? So yes, this has been brought at the EU level institutions, not only by the coalition in these EU-UN dialogues and continuous engagements and exchanges, but also by Spain, which has been not only in the EU level, but internationally inviting other member states, which are also champions of localization, to join the SPA and reinforce it. Hope this answers the question.
Okay. Yes, Inigo. Joaquim, I don't know if you would like to.
Sorry, if I may, because I think that the question was for me. I understood that the question was for me because the WFLET forum is the World Forum.
I'm sorry, Xavier. I thought it was on the 54.
No. On the contrary, you help us. You help me for the answer. No, if I may, it's just only to complement Inigo. As I said, the WFLET or the World Forum on Local Economic Development is a global stakeholder platform. It's not a UN or a EU-specific mechanism. So the dynamic with the UN member states should be understood in that context. No? So the final declaration can be checked on our website. It was shared by Spain. I can share it in the chat. But we are putting in place the implementation of the Seville platform for action together with the government of Spain to showcase global experiences, no? And to learn each other on local economic development. So that must be understood in that context. No? So the goal is to implement the SDG financing by creating enabling ecosystem for investment, or to mobilize private capital or an innovative financial instrument, and mainly serving as a global knowledge and innovation platform. So that's it. It was only to complement Inigo's answer.
Okay, thanks, Javier. Joaquim, is that okay as an answer, or do you need further clarification?
No, thanks a lot. I mean, I'm just sitting here wondering, there are all these wonderful initiatives, that we implement, for awareness raising. I mean, we have our own arguments as far as nothing goes without the local level, which is so self-evident. If you just have your, let's say, the logic behind it, if you see things from the development point of view, from the inclusion and from the sustainability point of view, and I just asked myself, there's so many initiatives, and so many activities, and somehow you run against a wall, and I just wonder, why it's so difficult, to drill this hole in this wall, or to overcome the wall, given all the activities that there are, and then it just comes to me, and I said, well, who is the one, or who are the ones, who are not letting us drill the hole or to get over this wall, despite all the all the evidence and that there is. And I ask myself, what more is needed, to convince the ones who are, or the institutions who are behind, that are not willing or slowing down this multi-level governance, or the multi-level governance dialogue, which is so important. And Yeah, and incredible that this is. I mean, the OECD. When I mentioned it with when Matilda and Gabriella was there, as a key principle, that this key principle takes so long in order to get into the heads of everyone. I mean, I just wonder where are the blockheads?
Thanks, Joaquin. I'm going to give the floor to Xavier because I've seen a question on your side, Xavier, as well. And maybe the speakers can come back to you if they have some further comments. But I totally agree with you. What else do we need to present to convince those who need to be convinced? Because I think that we're really doing our maximum. So it's not so much on our side now. It's on another level of governance side. So Javier, please.
Thank you. Yes, it was just a reflection on what Joaquin was mentioning, and also relating it to the excellent presentations that Gabriella, Paloma, Xavier, and you have offered, and the body's tone setting also excellent. I think we are in a moment that we have the opportunity, as Gabriella was mentioning, maybe the last window of opportunity. To come up with a really powerful and coherent bottom-up process to really make global impacts from the local realities, from local transformations. I mean, because it's in the local context where you can create trust on institutions, on the capacity of every actor to really deliver results for the long term. And that trust is something that is going to be the basis of real transformation, right? So where reality comes as a whole is in the local context, is in the territory. So taking it from there, I think the real challenge is to assemble a coherent and convergent process to really help us, all these organizations, all these initiatives, all the players be able to connect, to converge. I mean, the real challenge, the real risk is to be divergent. To atomize our efforts, because the localization of the global goals is universal. And is appealing to every single actor of the local context to work together. So it's so powerful that if we are able to connect it, it would be really, really decisive. If we are not able to connect it, it will be a real loss of energy, because there are so many actors playing around that we need to connect. And the fact that Íñigo came up with this multilateral architecture to localize the agenda and to build it bottom up, framing also with this blueprint precisely all the elements that, or many of the elements that Gabriella was mentioning as part of the solution, meaning effective decentralization processes, creating capacities and innovation in local players to be able to partner, to create collective governance, overtake this project-based approach to solutions into a process, into a mission-oriented based approach that Paloma was also mentioning in every single local context. That is how we're going to create this enabling framework to be able to attract finance to the local context. And there we can direct all the opportunities of international cooperation, development banks, DFIs, and also our bilateral cooperation, and decentralized cooperation can put the focus there on the importance of territories and be able to bridge the gap of these bottlenecks. The risking operations, coming up with innovative mechanisms to address local finance. Bringing it down to be able to handle lower tickets. Tickets that can be visible for the local context and for the local projects. All these elements we can frame that, but the real secret is that we engage in a very visible and powerful bottom-up process, and also an interterritorial south-south triangular cooperation that was also mentioned by Paloma and Gabriella, to help territories connect among them. And for that, we need to come up with knowledgeable narratives. So let's say some kind of interface that the blueprint can precisely play that role, so that every territory can identify processes that are similar, context-wise. Of course, there are different contexts, but knowing how do we engage citizens, how do we create innovations, how do we build missions in each territory, and how do we attract finance to local, can be the basis of these conversations. So I think that from all that has been said in here in this webinar, I think we have the opportunity to come up with a structured, coherent, bottom-up universal process. So, well, very happy. And also, I mean, we will try to bring this to the global, to all these discussions next week in Europe with the global gateway discussions. How do we create enabling environments in the local context, in the territory, to really ensure that finance is not, that we avoid these trickle-down concepts in the 80s, right? Which was such a myth of economy. We need to create the conditions in the local context to make finance work for the transition and to put people at the center. So yeah, I think that is very, very exciting, what has been said. So thank you, and over. Thank you, Eva.
Yeah, thank you very much, Javier. I can only agree with you. I also wanted to mention one piece of information also linked to climate. You may be aware that in 2027, and that also goes alongside with the date of the next World Forum, Xavier, there's going to be the special report by the Intergovernmental Panel on IPCC, and that's going to be a special report on cities. So maybe that's also another opportunity we've got is in 2 years' time, so it's not that far away. It's another opportunity that we have to also, bring this bottom-up approach, because it's the very first time that they do such a special report. So we are already involved through some of our experts in this group, and they are currently reviewing all the literature that is there. But that's a key moment. So there's an opportunity we have there. So we should not miss it, because as Joaquin was saying, what else can we show? What else can we do? Because we do our maximum, and every time we go to HLPF summit, we have the global task force, we've got the LGMA constituency, so we use all our potential there. So I don't think that the potential is missing. The potential is there, and we are really clearly showing what we're doing. We have an increasingly big amount of examples that we're sharing with our members. Every time we send questionnaires to you just bombard us with examples. So you have the expertise on the local ground. So sometimes it's just a matter of political willingness. That is just not there. Sometimes we don't find this. Sometimes we find these barriers with the national governments, but we can overcome them. So it's not impossible. We've seen that it's possible, and also with all the national reports that are delivered either on climate or on sustainable development objectives, there's a possibility to strengthen this dialogue between the subnational level and the national government. And that is feasible and that is possible, because we see this with our members, that sometimes it's just very difficult to start this dialogue, but once the dialogue is established and the trust is there, I mean, we've also talked about trust, then the work is much easier. So I think that we should benefit from all these opportunities. So considering that we are running just over time with 3 minutes, I don't know if there is any burning conclusion that any of the speakers would like to raise at this point in time. So I don't know, I can start maybe with Gabriella. Is there any key feedback you would like to bring to the table, to the screen?
No, just maybe the importance of this type of spaces of exchange, because we have, again, not a lot of time, and the role of not duplicating efforts. For example, with the presentation of Paloma, I was thinking of what we are doing at FMDV and how we can collaborate with all the work done with UFI. And now maybe, Paloma, you're going to receive a message later on. So just congratulating and reminding the importance of places like this, of exchanges, always. And it's a pleasure to be, and will be very good to contribute in the next opportunities also. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Gabriella. Xavier, you want to bring any concluding remarks or any further thoughts?
Eva, as I have to leave, if I may, just very quickly, very often, and this is just nothing to do with something substantive, but with the comment that Joaquin made before about, we're not able to make a whole, right? What happens? Who is prevented make a whole? Very often, local and regional governments and local stakeholders have never been doing wholes, have gone through the crack holes and ended up passing the thing. Maybe that's if you put a lot of water through the crackles, you end up tearing down the wall, right? And maybe that's also not that the UN system has this officially, but I think very often it's a matter of finding the spaces, and this has to do with what Gabriella has mentioned, right? Working together in all those little places, but with coherent strategy, right? Sometimes together, sometimes alone, right? But let's go through those crackles and make sure that no crackle is empty, right? That we all put in as much pressure as possible there, right? And obviously count with the coalition for that.
Okay, many thanks, Inigo, and I can only agree. So one last word for Javier, I mean, for Xavier, Paloma, and Boris. You have the opportunity now.
No, I mean, I cannot. I mean, I fully agree with Gabriela and Inigo. I mean, the importance to create these kind of spaces to know each other, what we are doing, and to create synergies on how to improve and how to be heard. No? So thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Paloma and Boris.
Paloma, please go ahead.
Okay.
Paloma.
Thank you. No, I mean, I think it's all good, and what I'm glad to take away is that all of our separate efforts and initiatives, we're all open, I think, to feedback, but also to working together. Really, there are spaces made for joint creation, so we can definitely continue to feed on each other's work and efforts. So looking forward to the next conversation.
Thanks, Paloma. And Boris, last but not least.
Last but not least, a lot has been said, and thank you very much for the contributions, especially also those from participants. I think we all see the need, we all see the drive, and we all are mobilized, we're all motivated to drive things forward. So I hope that this approach, really the multi-stakeholder, multi-level approach that we speak about, bottom-up, really creating a movement, the willingness to bring something to fruition, is really important. I think that's the essential driving force. So I will just remain with large thanks to all of you for taking the time to participate, for the speakers to share their knowledge, to share their experience, participants also for participating in the discussions. Last but not least, to the team, to Eva, to Matilde, to Hervé, that made this happen. This webinar, and I'm sure we stay in contact. We are all a network. We are all a family of those that care for sustainable development and all the global agendas to bring them forward on the ground, on the local level, with cities, with regions, and with local communities. So thank you very much for the participation.
So thank you very much, Boris. And then I have also put in the chat a link to a small evaluation survey, because it takes really 1 minute. And it would also give us indication on 1 minute or 1.5, depends how much you write. But it would give us also ideas for future webinars to see, what direction we can take, because we can talk about many things. But, if you tell us what is interesting for you, then we can also try to accommodate that. And then I will be putting all these outcomes in a small report that I will circulate next week, also with the recording. So feel free to forward it to other colleagues, and then we'll be in touch also for I'm talking to our members now for the next SDG survey that I will be producing together with UCLG. So I will also be in contact with Paloma's team to see what are the most adequate questions that we can ask you, looking into the financial aspect as well, to also do a strong lobbying. So whenever we go and talk to the international stakeholders, they listen to us in a different way. And we try to make more holes in the wall, following the suggestions that we've had as well. So many thanks to everyone, and then I'll see you at the next occasion. And if I don't see you before, Christmas time, so have a lovely break. I know it's still in advance, but some people will be going on holidays very soon. So enjoy the break, and then stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.